King of Birds by REM. A thumbnail sketch, a jeweler's stone, a mean idea to call my own. Old man, don't lay so still, you're not yet young. There's time to teach. Point to point, point observation. Children carry reservations. Standing on the shoulders of giants leaves me cold, leaves me cold. A mean idea to call my own. 100 million birds fly away. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you guys there. Welcome to Bitcoin Talk. So I was just reading a little bit of my favorite band, REM, off their old album Document. I was just struck while I was listening to the music this morning how they're repeating these old classic lines. And sure, everyone's heard the phrase standing on the shoulders of giants. It probably reminds you of the atomic bomb projects, the Manhattan projects, standing on the shoulders of giant scientific accomplishments of the past coming together. And when I was listening to it, I was reminded of Bitcoin. And I was reminded of that we are truly standing on the shoulders of giants. And, we're nothing compared to Satoshi or Sabo or Peter Todd or Matt or Vlad or any of the big coders on this thing. But we can stand on their shoulders. And together we can accomplish great things. And often there's a problem standing on the shoulders. You don't understand how you got there. You don't understand the sacrifices that were made. But I think we do. And I think that we're still sacrificing even today. So let's just get into it. Let's check out the price of Bitcoin. Today is June 21st, 2018. My name is Thomas Hunt, and this is Bitcoin Talk Show on the World Crypto Network. We can even make the graphics bigger. But we can't get Bitcoin average to load properly. The price of Bitcoin is down 0.58% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 6,720, a high of 6,806, and a low of 6,696. We don't seem to have the Satoshi chart, so we'll see if we can load it. It says X. That's not very useful. $1 for 14,827 Satoshis. Still under the 15,000 Satoshi barrier. We're still covering the main stories. Tether review claims that crypto asset is fully backed, but there's a catch. They couldn't get an accounting firm, so they got a law firm. The law firm only verified their data on June the 1st. So if it's June the 1st, Tether is fully backed, according to this law firm. If it's not June the 1st, I don't know. Breaking news from a few days ago, BitThumb hacked for $30 million in cryptocurrency, perhaps causing the market to drop. We're also covering the Mistos beta that we talked about yesterday right here on the World Crypto Network. Check out our interview. It's a really cool software built on top of Blockstack. And Blockstack is a decentralized identification protocol, something similar to login with Facebook. And it also allows you to store your data where you want to. So you could use a version of Google Docs and store your data where you want to and have it encrypted. What Mistos does is it allows you to share a multi-signature wallet very easily amongst a team of partners. It fixes some of the problems that we have with Copay and the other old multi-signature wallets is that they don't have a good way to add or remove people. And if you're in a company, you're going to be doing a lot of adding and removing people. People come and go, and you have to reset your wallet each time. Additionally, Mistos will have in the future the ability to track and categorize these payments. So if you're using it for petty cash and you went out to, buy dinner or buy lunch for a client, you could have it approved by your business partners. It's also very neat because you could use it from far away. Maybe you're running a software company and you've never met, never been in the same room. This is a great way to store some funds and then to use the funds collaboratively. You can try it out right now on Blockstack at Mistos. And Blockstack's very cool, and we hope to talk to them more in the future. We are reaching out to do more interviews. It's not that I like doing interviews. I like asking people questions. I think I'm all right at it, and I think I can also roll with the punches. So if a good question comes up or we go on a different topic, I feel I'm good to go. The problem I have is scheduling interviews. I'm not good at scheduling interviews. I'm not good at negotiating back and forth. Monday, oh, how about Tuesday? What about Wednesday? It's kind of exhausting. But and I try to just do shows. But I would like to schedule more interviews. I was going to reach out to Twitter, see if maybe you guys could help me schedule more interviews or request people that I should interview. And of course, we could tag them, and then they would kind of be like, "Hey, maybe I should do that interview," and it kind of gets the idea out to them, maybe puts it in their back of their mind. So that'd be cool. And yeah, go ahead and mention in the chat right here who you think I should interview. Uh, Jeremy says Chris DeRose. I've talked to Chris DeRose before, but I'd be glad to check in, see what he's up to. Always good to have a nice interview with Chris DeRose. Had a great time with him last time. And then afterwards, he said just the nicest thing. He just said, I love making content with you. And he just really understood that I have kind of a television approach to this, and he has a television approach in his own way. He's doing a lot of conservative stuff these days, and he's expressing his political opinions, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're his opinions. It's fine to have an opinion. It's fine to express it. But yeah, it was fun to hang out with Chris. I definitely do that again. They're saying Craig Wright. That might be an angry interview, but once again, if he talks to Roger, hopefully Roger will tell him that I'm fair. I had Roger on here about a year ago talking about Bitcoin scaling, and gave Roger all the chance he needed to tell his side of the argument. I really had the attitude that night that I just wanted Roger to tell us what was wrong. And then later I had Peter Todd and Eric Lombroso, Jimmy Song, a bunch of other people on, and they very much disagreed with Roger. So I really felt that was a chance to lay out his side of the argument and then discuss his side of the argument. They're saying Richard Hart. That'd be good. I haven't talked to Richard in a while. I know he's working on his own ICO, but so is everyone else. So I don't see that as a disqualification or a reason I shouldn't talk to Richard. I enjoy his philosophical stance, and he's really good at arguing. He has a nice way of arguing. Not that I would want to argue with him or that I think we disagree on much, but he's great at arguing. They're saying Ronaldo, the soccer player. I don't know if they mean the Portuguese or the Brazilian. Extra confusing because Brazil speaks Portuguese. Max Kaiser would be a good get. I like Max. He's always said really, really nice things about Mad Bitcoins. I've never met him in person or spoken to him directly, but he seems like a great guy. Uh, a little bit on the RT thing, not too crazy about that, but he's got to do what he's got to do to get the word out. And I appreciate that he's been talking about Bitcoin all these years. So let's see. We'll go on with the stories here. Check out the Bitcoin Las Vegas meetup at bitcoinlasvegas.org. America's fastest growing Bitcoin meetup. We've got a meetup tonight at Rustica Pizza. We're up to 7 RSVPs. Woo! If we can get 4 or 5 people to this meetup, that would be awesome. As always, you can donate right now to the QR code on your screen. Not to say the show is over, but just happened up on the screen here. We had a donation on the 20th. That's yesterday, 0.00074205. Thanks so much for your support of this show. We'd also like to give a shout out to our Patreons. We have 86 patrons on the Mad Bitcoins account and 22 patrons on the World Crypto Network account. And again, you can just donate as much or as little as you like. It's a monthly thing, so it's kind of like you could dollar cost average your donations to the World Crypto Network. If you donate $2 a month over 12 months, you'll donate $24, almost 25. So you can gauge it out and you can do it that way. So let's see. Drink a little tea here. They've got some more questions for me in the chat. Let me see if I can pull up the chat here. Get it on the screen for you. And I know there's other ways to view the chat, but when I put the chat on the screen like this, you have no choice. You must view the chat. So John M asks, have you been to many Vegas shows, Thomas? And I'm not gonna brag here, but I have moved to Vegas, so I do like to see shows. It is definitely part of my plan to move here. I've seen, I want to say like 7 or 8 shows. I've really have been here, a couple months, maybe a show a week, something like that seems kind of reasonable. What are my favorites? Well, Penn and Teller were fantastic. Teller did that trick where he pulls coins out of the goldfish bowl and he's got his sleeves rolled up and the bowl's full of water, and he is just pulling coins. I don't know where they're coming from. And there's a lady right up there. She's close. She could watch him. She could tell us where these coins are coming from, but he is so fast, so good at what he does. Penn was super funny. Enjoyed that a lot. I also liked Piff the Magic Dragon. I'm trying to see. My brother and I are kind of into these America's Got Talent type shows, so we want to go see a bunch of those. Sorry, I need to cough more in the morning or something. But no, I've seen a lot of shows. What did I just see? I just saw Carrot Top, and you go to Carrot Top and you're kind of thinking, maybe I'm going to Carrot Top to make fun of Carrot Top. Like, oh, I saw him and he had props and he was stupid. Oh, Carrot Top was fantastic. Fantastic. I mean, the props were funny and he did them quickly. And he also had this style of making fun of the props, and he'd make fun of himself for having to build the props. Like he had to go into a store and buy a black dildo. He's like, this was very embarrassing for me. And the audience is just rolling. He had so much energy. He had a lot of normal stand up. He did impersonations. He did standard jokes. He told little stories. Just fantastic. Carrot Top. As far as like a big spectacle show, I saw Blue Man Group. I thought that was pretty cool. I haven't seen any of the Cirque du Soleils yet. I would like to see a Cirque du Soleil. I don't know what they're like. I've heard a lot about them and the acrobats and the colors and the costumes and things, but I don't know what that would be like. So it's super fun. If you come to Vegas, definitely try to see a show. I've been getting pretty good discounts on the Vegas.com app if you want to check that out. But it's interesting stuff out there in Vegas. And that's part of the reason I think to live here is to see a bunch of shows kind of for cheap even. You're getting a discount because they expect you to gamble or they expect you to stay in the hotel. And in my opinion, if you kind of drive down there, see a show, don't gamble at all, and drive back, you're the real winner, right? You're the one that took advantage of the system. So yeah, I'm not a big gambling fan. I'm more into math. So that's not even say that I'm good at math or great at math or anything. I know enough not to gamble. I don't know if that's enough math to know. But we've got some other suggestions here. John McAfee, that would be an interesting interview. I certainly wouldn't mention that documentary to him. I'd try to let him set the topics, but I am aware I have seen that documentary. Stacey Herbert would be an interesting interview. If I could get Max, or if I couldn't get Max, maybe I could get Stacey first. Are we going to talk about the zeros? Most definitely, we're going to talk about the zeros. Not to say that I understand this at all, but I want to talk about it. And hopefully you guys in the chat understand it so you can tell me what these zeros are. I'm going to give you the best information that I have about the zeros, and we'll see how that goes. They say I could do an anonymous interview with Samurai Wallet Dev. They would have to take care of the Google account and forwarding their traffic or whatever they want to do to be more anonymous, but give it a try. Satoshi Nakamoto, Justin Trudeau, Vin Armani. These would be good ideas. Let's see. Oh, Crypto Sasquatch says he delivered a pizza to Carrot Top's house in Winter Park when he was in high school. Lol. And that is the funny thing about Carrot Top, is that he can't get away from it. He has that hair. He's a tall, muscular gentleman. Wherever you go, if you see Carrot Top, you're like, boom, that's Carrot Top. But once again, I got to give it to the guy. Completely solid stand-up. You want to make fun of the props and the cases and how he has to carry that all with him or whatever. Sure. George Carlin didn't have to do that. But good job, Carrot Top. Completely solid stand-up. Let's see. They say, is Bitcoin from the future? Where did Satoshi get a supercomputer in 2009? Not sure it was a supercomputer. They say because no one was mining the Bitcoin network, it might have been easier to set down those zeros than otherwise. Sorry, I got a cough this morning. Let me cough for a minute. All right. Hopefully better, but I don't know. Check Your Six says, interview a family that sold everything and bought Bitcoin. There was one of those in the Netherlands, and they were living in a campground. But I think for them, they sold in like the 5,000 range to buy the Bitcoin. So even now they'd be up a little bit. And of course they were crazy up during the run. I wonder if they sold. I wonder if, after having no house for their family for 6 months or a year or whatever it took, if they just shrugged their shoulders and said, "18K is all right." Sadly, they were probably waiting for 20. But I don't know. People want me to talk about 21E8. We definitely want to get to that. I saw a documentary. He seems pretty chill. Screw his dogs, though. I don't know what you guys are talking about with the dogs here. So maybe Carrot Top has some dogs. But let's interview the Fed and explain Bitcoin to them. Oh, I'm sure they'd like that. But yeah, definitely keep the interview ideas coming. Remember, on Twitter, you can tag the person and maybe say something nice to them, or say that you think it would be a good interview, and that'll help out a lot because that gets them on my radar and gets me on their radar. And then it's just a matter of scheduling this thing. I'm thinking right now, Wednesday is a good interview day. I did a interview yesterday. That was good. I've got an interview planned for next week. I think that's going to be good. I don't want to say who it's with. Maybe somebody will steal them or put them on their show first. But I'm just going to wait on that. But I do need a interview for the week following Wednesday. So the goal for that will be to get another interview for then. Yeah, the McAfee documentary. Scary stuff. Stay away from it. Don't watch it. It's on Netflix. Don't watch it. I will be doing a small reading of To Satoshi with Love later in the show. Thanks so much for asking. I had a request for it on Twitter last night. People were saying they want to see it. They want to see if Trump gets to meet Mara and if he grabs her by the small cat. Why Bitcoin made a comeback after the South Korean exchange hack? Because it was never the South Korean exchange hack that drove down the price. No one cares about South Korean exchange hacks except the media. To the media, it's super exciting. To everyone else, it's like another stupid hack. I mean, if they actually broke Bitcoin, if they actually broke the encryption, if they actually found a way to double spend or something like that, that'd be great. But no, it's just another exchange hack. It's another centralized project that they attach to Bitcoin. Yawn. Bitcoin at important inflection point as it attempts to break out of downtrend. Bitcoin's on track for its first winning week of the month and a near potential breakout point. I love these economists. They're like weathermen. You know how weatherman's like, "Oh, it's going to rain tomorrow," unless it doesn't. "Oh, we're reaching a point where it might rain," unless it doesn't. But let's see what he says here. He's got the resistance. He says 7790. Yeah, other people call it, 7800. Remains a key resistance and upside reversal level. 6900 to 7000 is the 15-day moving average. The support seems to be at 6385, followed by 6135. He is showing us in a descending wedge, right? So we are on a descending wedge here, according to MarketWatch. Bobby Lee, Bitcoin maximalists. Bitcoin's value is in the eye of the beholder. Great to see Bobby Lee still out there supporting Bitcoin, staying on the right team. Good stuff. Bobby Lee, founder of crypto exchange BTCC and board member at the Bitcoin Foundation. Haven't heard much from them in years, but that's cool. What's he been up to? Chinese regulations have been increasing. Nothing is permanent in China, says Bobby. And that's what I would agree with too. China may have banned Bitcoin or banned ICOs or exchanges or whatever for a limited amount of time, but they will change their mind. They're saying in the chat that, yep, Bobby Lee happens to be Charlie Lee of Litecoin fame's brother. Normally that's not the case, but this time it happens to be true. And he says that he didn't know Bobby was a Bitcoin maximalist, but I think he is. And also, Bobby's been really impressive, turning BTCC into a big exchange. It started out as a very small exchange. It says Bobby's writing a book about Bitcoin. Very nice. He's always wanted to write a book and be an author. Me too. Very cool. Looking forward to it. Hope to see Bobby's book soon and hope that it's as positive about Bitcoin as I think he is. So good stuff. Advertising, Bitcoin price analysis. It's a hit or miss moment for Bitcoin/USD. And I hate to make fun of these weathermen, but at least they're telling you the truth. It's a hit or it's a miss. They don't know which one. They just know, like he says, we're going to reach one of those inflection points where we're going to have to make the decision. We're going to have to choose. Does Bitcoin go up or does Bitcoin go down? It's not my choice. It's not your choice. We don't have enough money to move the market, but somebody does, and they'll be making their decision soon. New resistance could cap Bitcoin's upside price potential. And here's CoinDesk waking up to what I've been saying this whole time. We haven't broken 6,800. Here it is. Let's go to the fancy language. Despite all this, the cryptocurrency has struggled to find acceptance above 6,800 in the last 72 hours, as anyone with eyes will tell you. Did you use your eyes when you looked at the chart? I used my eyes. You say we might be in a rising wedge, keeping an eye on that. A bearish continuation pattern above 6,150, a rising wedge to 50-day moving average support would put the bears back in the driver's seat and allow a drop to 6,000. A drop below 6,550 would also push the relative strength index below the ascending trend line, further strengthening the bear case. The immediate outlook remains bullish so long as Bitcoin is holding on above 6,550. On the higher side, stiff resistance is noted at 6,943 and $7,000, the psychological hurdle. A downside break of the rising wedge pattern below 6,550 would open doors to $6,000 Bitcoin. A daily close below 6,000 would expose the next major psychological support of $5,000. And I like when they talk about psychological supports and psychological hurdles because that's just nonsense and that's just made up words. So let's go with more of that and less of the chart talk. It's psychologically, it just feels good. People feel good, so they buy more. It feels bad, so they sell less. It's all about feelings, right? Feelings. Capital alert. Can Bitcoin be used for campaign contributions? Well, sure, but not really. They always put the Bitcoin donations behind one of those BitPay sign up, give us all your information KYC forms. They never actually released the QR code because then you could donate from all over the world. And if you could donate from all over the world, as we've seen in the Russia, American, US government election problems, you could just buy the election. So, yeah, you can kind of take political campaigns or donations for political campaigns, but not really. Bitcoin price live. Bitcoin exhausted at 6K. Bottoming process could sink crypto to 4K by David Dawkins in the express.co.uk. It's a tabloid. Bitcoin is fighting back after news of yet another hack on an exchange in South Korea sent crypto prices tumbling this week. However, one expert has warned that Bitcoin's bottoming process has begun and prices could soon sink down to 4,500. Let's see who the expert is. Bill Barch, president of Blue Line Futures. Do you think he's ever installed Windows? I don't think so. Claim that Bitcoin's rolling 30-day annualized volatility is down around 61% compared to last year's highs of nearly 150%. Bitcoin's volatility was down 50% in June alone. This could signal the beginning of another fall. Ultimately, after its volatility has become depressed and the cryptocurrency has lost as much as 70% from its December peak, I believe the selling has become exhausting and a bottoming process can begin. Interesting stuff. Bitcoin and its friends really are worthless digital gold. Ooh. Let's see. New cryptocurrencies and their tokens are illogical. ICOs have nothing to offer. The inevitable prolonged collapse of the majority of these useless cryptocurrencies will also drag Bitcoin down temporarily. You're you're missing a word. Temporarily. It will drag Bitcoin down. Sure, when all of these things explode, it will drag Bitcoin down temporarily. Temporarily is what you're looking for. Robinhood CEO, it's very foolish to rule out Bitcoin. More than 1 million people signed up to trade cryptocurrencies on Robinhood. As the CEO says, it's very foolish to say Bitcoin is done. I agree with that. Grandpa teaches Bitcoin. Everything you know about Bitcoin is thanks to this Czech grandpa. The Wikipedia page's most prolific editor doesn't even own cryptocurrency. Maybe that's why there's not a Mad Bitcoins article on Wikipedia. Hmm. But this is a really cool story about a gentleman who volunteers for the Wikipedia in Czech Republic outside of Prague, and he edits the Bitcoin article. He doesn't know about Bitcoin, but he would like to learn more. He owns no Bitcoin whatsoever, and has been working as an editor or a volunteer editor for the Wikipedia since the year 2000. Very cool. He devotes about 2 hours a day to editing and maintaining cryptocurrency articles for both the English and Czech versions of Wikipedia. There's still a chance you could create a Mad Bitcoins article today. Still a chance. And let's go to the Twitter section. Claim the Ethereum pre-mine is going to pay for developers. Reality, Joseph Lubin is a billionaire, and the Oreo has a $28 million Toronto condo. So much for the pre-mine. Jameson Lopp. Many Bitcoin users are aware that Laszlo Hanuk bought 2 Papa John's pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin in 2010. What's less known is that he kept his pizza offer open and in total purchased 8 pizzas for a total of 40,000 Bitcoins. But again, look at what Laszlo did here. He kept it open. He kept people buying things in Bitcoin. No one had ever bought anything in Bitcoin before Laszlo's pizza. And the fact that he did it 4 times instead of just once just means that Laszlo was hungry. Laszlo was hungry. This is kind of an interesting tweet I saw. For 6 years, I've led a research team focused on revealing how we're being tracked by hidden third parties online. I've been waiting for tracking protection to come to a competitive feature of web browsers. That's happening now. Here are some thoughts. And the author claims that Firefox is back and that it's going to take on Google Chrome, saying that it has strong privacy features and is as fast as Chrome. Is an interesting idea. I used to use Firefox back in the day when it came out. Great software, did good stuff, tabbed browsing, a very big deal back in the day, if you can imagine. And this is an interesting article. I would consider using it again. I wouldn't mind doing, maybe next week, I'll do a week of Firefox and I'll try it. I'll see if I can live with it. I am pretty used to Chrome, though. The other problem is Chrome is on multiple of my computers. It syncs my bookmarks. It syncs my plugins. It's a pretty great experience. So we'll see if Firefox can get even close to matching that. But it'll be a good attempt, a good try. Richard Feynman. The true hallmark of genius is the ability to explain things simply. And I agree with that. I think maybe you don't notice sometimes. You hear a really good analogy for something and you think, wow, that explains it perfectly. That analogy wasn't very easy to come up with. It seems simple in hindsight, but it takes, like Feynman's saying here, it takes genius to come up with that analogy. It takes genius to come up with a shortcut, and it takes genius to twist your mind into the mind of someone that doesn't know what it's like to be a new mind that doesn't know these things versus what it's like to be an old mind that knows these things. And bridging that gap is what teaching's about. Feynman was a great teacher and he taught us a lot. So very cool stuff. Gabriel Devine is introducing what is probably the topic of the day. Crypto Twitter is freaking out about the hash of a block from yesterday, but I don't see the big deal. The coincidence is not 18 zeros, then 21E8, but 21E8 versus any other combination of 4 characters, which over 500,000 blocks is just going to happen sometimes. So Gabriel is denying it. He's not interested in the magic. We do have the magic here. Basic understanding of what's going on. Okay, so there's a block hash or something like this, right? This is a code that's created by Bitcoin. This one has a bunch of zeros at the beginning. This is difficult to do. At the very beginning in the Genesis block, when Satoshi was mining by himself, he was the only computer on the network. It is believed that Satoshi intentionally manipulated the Genesis block, maybe using code that we haven't even seen because it was never released because it was only used for one purpose. But he used this code to create a Genesis block with a bunch of zeros at the front. Now this new block, whatever it is, has been mined with a bunch of zeros in the front. So you have to say, how did they do that? They have some kind of special system. And then there's something about the quote or whatever it is that's left behind in there. So Charlie Noyes says, leading zeros can be ignored considering Bitcoin as a single system, not assuming this was a single actor specifically trying to generate this hash. The odds of a block having 18 leading zeros is currently looks really bad. He says the likelihood of any specific 4-character sequence following the 4 zeros in a hash is this. This sequence should have already shown up 8 times according to the odds. So I guess it also has 21E8 at the beginning here after the zeros. So maybe that was controlled as well. Trying to get more information about this. This started out from Andrew DeSantis's Twitter, or it seems like it. It might have come from other places. We've got a couple things, and then mainly something about the etymology of Satoshi Nakamoto is effectively awoken by being at the source. And I don't know what that is or how that ties into this. People are trying to figure it out. It has to do with the leading zeros, E8 theory. It's getting pretty heavy here. The Genesis block itself starts with lots of zeros. Here's the part that I was telling you about earlier, that Satoshi likely did this on his own. He was the only one mining. He was able to do this. As far as it happening now, it seems like it's a random number. What the other guy was saying is it's a random number. There's a chance it would happen, and now it's happened. He also thought that it should happen 8 times based upon the odds and the randomness. So I don't know much more about this. Excuse me. If you know in the chat, you could tell us about it. Awoken by being at the source. It sounds like the Matrix 2 and 3, really, the keymaster and the gatekeeper and the source, and we must get to the source and we must reset the matrix. And I don't know, maybe we are in a matrix, right? I've heard that posited. It's more likely that we're in a simulation, or that you could be in a specific simulation. Everything around you could be simulated, and they're just trying to see what you will do. That's the best way to study something scientifically, is to only change one thing. But yeah, interesting stuff with these crazy leading zeros and the awoken at the source. Crypto Graffiti might have heard our chat yesterday, and he says Flux is better than night mode. I do like Flux. It does seem like my computer's more orange, has more options. It's cool stuff. More awoken by being at the source stuff. And now on to BitPay. Money Triggs is very upset at BitPay. He says that BitPay practices deceitful practices and that they're overcharging the network fee for Bitcoin. They're also making it seem like the Bcash fee is 0. He says he doesn't recommend BitPay, and he recommends that all of his business partners do the same. They're still up to scammy practices he claims are sponsored by Roger and Jihan. And as you can see here, they do have a Bitcoin price at $1.63. Seems pretty high. And the Bitcoin Cash price at 0, which we all know it isn't actually 0. It's strange to see BitPay do this kind of thing. This is the, you're biting the hand that feeds you, right? BitPay is a Bitcoin company. They rely on Bitcoin users. It's interesting to see them willing to give that up for the idea of this Bitcoin Cash with its rotated and stolen logo. You have to wonder which side you're on. Are you on the side that made the logo or the side that rotated the logo? I wouldn't want to be on the rotated logo side. Disastrous copyright bill vote approved. Bad news from Europe. I don't like the sound of this. I've just hearing of it now. I don't know very much about European laws or politics, but every now and then one of them will rise up. Basically, they're saying this article could mean the end to memes, remixes, and other user generated content. Basically, it forces websites or website providers to be accountable for the stuff that's on their websites. So if you had a Google City or a GeoCities account or whatever, you put your web page up, you had some nasty stuff on there, GeoCities would be sued for your website. This ends the ability for anyone to offer service or storage to anyone on the internet because they can't, because they'd get sued. This Article 13 is so bad that 70 influential tech leaders, including Vint Cerf and Tim Berners-Lee, creator of the World Wide Web, signed a letter opposing Article 13, which they called an imminent threat to the future of the internet. As I said before, Article 13 puts more onus on websites to enforce copyright and could mean that every online platform that allows users to post text, sounds, code, or images will need some form of content recognition system to review all material that users upload. As Cory Doctorow said, it is a foolish and terrible idea. As he wrote on Boing Boing, one of the greatest websites in the world and the center of the internet, that I was proudly on with my Star Trek Ships Only project. Yes, bucket list. No filter exists that can even approximate this. And the closest equivalents are mostly run by American companies, meaning that US big tech is going to get to spy on everything Europeans post and decide what gets censored and what doesn't. This is a terrible law. This is a dangerous law, and it's probably going to pass. Pirate Beach Bum. I'm not here for followers, fame, or to make money. I'm also not looking for acceptance from crypto famous peeps. I'm a truth seeker. Nobody who appreciate I'm a truth seeker nobody who appreciates the other nobodies like me. When I see bullshit, I will always call it out for my fellow plebes. And I think this is a good message for all of us. We have to look around and look at the people who surround us and ask, why are they here? Are they here just to copy what everyone else does, to steal it, to make it their own, and then to get famous? Have you met people like that? Watch out for it. There's lots of them here in crypto. They don't know how to create anything. They don't know how to do anything on their own, but they're ready to steal what you do. They're ready to copy what you do and do the exact same thing. It's pretty pathetic. Some people, you try to work with them, but their form of working is just to copy and to steal. And he's probably getting tired of it here. This probably also stems. People have been critical of Andreas Antonopoulos recently. And I know that's a shock. They say plebe, not plebes, pleb, not plebe. I don't know. You're going to have to explain the difference between those. Plebs are people in the street. Plebes are, I don't know. We're going to have to look those words up in a minute. But anyway, people have been critical of Andreas, and I know you're shocked. He's, untouchable. He's the one. But they've been critical for him for writing the Mastering Ethereum book. They don't know why he did that. I don't know why he did that either. I thought from the beginning that he could sniff out these kinds of questionable projects and that he wasn't motivated by money. But when you look at it, it just kind of seems like the next project came along and he wrote the next book. If that's true, could we expect a Mastering Monero book and a Mastering Zcash book? And at that point, you have to question, are you really a Bitcoin maximalist? Do you really believe in what you say? When you say things like, a lot of the things I've heard, I say from Andreas, he talks about how email and TCP kept growing and kept getting better. And you have to look at that. So they're saying, please touch on difficulty. No one is talking about difficulty. Okay, so I did see this back in the chat. I was trying to get through the news before we went back to the chat. Let me go back up. What were they talking about here? Carrot Top's house. Difficulty. Mempool cleared fast. Okay. Difficulty. Hashnet. Antpool. Well, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. It seemed like BitThumb might have been moving their money in kind of a panicked fashion. Remember, BitThumb got hacked for $30 million. They shut down all of their accounts, and then they promised that they were moving the money into cold storage. Yesterday, we posited that they could have been moving the money into cold storage, or the hacker could have been moving the money. Either way, they were paying fees that were almost 25 or even 30% of the amount they were sending. So you have to be really desperate to pay those fees. So that's one idea. The other idea is perhaps that people are moving their money to and from exchanges out of cold wallets to sell, to panic sell, or to panic buy. Tough to say. People have also talked about, and I think Max Kaiser's talked about, that the Bitcoin difficulty keeps going up. And that means that more and more miners are being added to the system. Now, part of this is a delay in time. If you bought your miner 3 months ago or 6 months ago, you're locked in, right? It doesn't matter what happens in Bitcoin price. You're going to run that miner for 6 months or a year or whatever your plan is. And you have no choice. You're locked in. You got to follow that plan. You're not going to gain anything by leaving that miner unplugged, right? Now, 6 months to a year from now, maybe you covered your ROI and you're looking for profits and you're doing the math. Maybe it's time to unplug that miner then. But generally, what Max has been saying, and I generally agree with him, and this has been true the entire time of Bitcoin, is that the difficulty keeps rising. Either the miners know something that we don't know, or they have sunk cost, or some other reason why they keep doing this. But the miners' belief in Bitcoin is unshaken. So if that's an indicator to you, and you just believe that the miners are sticking with it, so you should stick with it, that might not be a bad idea. Remember the old fallacy, if you can't spot the mark at the table, the mark is probably you. So if you don't know why the miners are doing this, either you can just accept it, you can make your decisions on it, or you can try to analyze it and try to figure it out. We don't know. Let's keep going here. Satoshi Nakamoto, disastrous copyright bill, and Mythos. I just want to say again, check out the Mythos public beta. My friend Justin and his team worked very hard on this. I think it's very cool software. And again, it runs on Blockstack, this really cool distributed project where they're going to have other applications loosely built on top of the Bitcoin network. They do have a sign-in process. It stores your identity in the blockchain a little bit, maybe a pointer to your identity. And then they have a data storage process that will allow you to store your data encrypted in the Google or the Microsoft cloud, or you could put it in the Amazon cloud, or you could put it on your own computer. And I think this is a really cool applications platform. And I'm hoping to interview some more guys from this platform and from the various projects on this platform soon. I'm talking to people on Twitter and trying to do the scheduling, and I'm not good at it. But hopefully I'm getting better. But I'm going to go ahead and open up the phone lines right now. If you'd like to give us a call on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. We could talk about anything we've been talking about, the difficulty, the lots of zeros. We could talk about the price, or we could talk about REM lyrics and how they're the best band ever. I'm always open to talk about REM. But you guys can give us a call now on Skype, World Crypto Network, all one word. Adding a couple of people, getting the show going. People are talking about the difficulty adjustment. They think it's a big deal. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, Thomas. It's me again, Max from Germany.
Great. Hi, Max. How's it going?
Dude, really, really good. It is. We have a beautiful summer here in Germany, amazing weather, and it's always good to talk about Bitcoin, right?
That sounds nice. I think it's going to be 110 here today. So enjoy the weather in Germany.
Well, it's not that hot here, thank God.
Oh, yeah. It's a desert, though. I'm prepared for it. I'm going to stay inside. Well, what are you thinking today on the various topics, Max? Anything strike your interest?
Well, you brought up the difficulty adjustment, and that is, or difficulty in general, and that is, I think, a really underestimated point in the Bitcoin network, which is one of the most innovative and most important things that Satoshi's did. And so first to the technical side, the block hash itself, that has the bunch of zeros in front, is a hash of a set of a data set, which is the Bitcoin block. So every time a block is trying to be produced, the miner creates a candidate block, a block that is not yet solved with all the new transactions in, and then it has a nonce in this block as well, a random number that the miner can change unlimitlessly.
Okay.
And the miner then takes this input data and hashes it through the SHA-256 hashing algorithm, and out comes a hash. And this hash is basically just a large number. And the goal in mining is to change the nonce in this input data, in this block, as often and try to find a hash which is under a certain number, because the hash is a huge number. So you could say try to find a number, a hash that is below the number 2 million, for example.
And that's how it works? That's the difficulty adjustment?
No, that itself is just the mining, just the amount. So when we say to put proof of work into a block, and to prove that you put enough work into the block, means that you have to prove that you found a nonce and a block itself that produces a hash that is under a specific number. And that number Satoshi set in the Genesis block. And I think it was the number, it started with 1, was a bunch of zeros. And ever since then, it decreased every 2 weeks. And this, or not to say different, so the more miners are into this, are trying to find this number, the just by rare chance, one of them is going to find it, the true solution to a valid block. And the more people try guessing it, because it's pure random, someone will eventually find it. And this also means that the more, in order to keep the block time at 10 minutes, we need to increase the difficulty of finding this true solution. And we do that with lowering the target value for a valid block.
Pretty exciting stuff. So how does this explain the block with all the zeros?
Exactly. And generally, you need a block or a hash of a block that has 18 zeros in front. That's the current small number that you have to be lower than. And so what happened now is that we found a block that had 21 zeros in front of it. And this means it had 4 more zeros in front than it actually needed to have. And this just means that those last 4 numbers, it's just 4 orders of magnitude harder to guess this block, but someone just guessed it. So it was pure luck, nothing special.
So it's pure luck. Okay. So it's not like they have a new process to create much smaller numbers. Because if they did, they could mine faster, right?
Exactly. Theoretically, if we now have for 2 weeks, all blocks that are being found have 21 zeros in front in their hash, then the difficulty adjustment would kick in. And on the next minimum difficulty for the next 2,100 blocks would be the 21 zeros in front of the hash.
So, okay, so I want to try to understand this. So did somebody plug in like a really powerful computer, like a quantum computer or something? Like the way that you would get more zeros, just I'll try to explain it. You would get more zeros by having a faster or a better computer. So you could guess an even lower number than anyone else has guessed. So you would win all the time. So is it possible somebody has a faster computer and they're going to win all the time? Is that one of the possibilities here?
Well, kind of, but not really. Theoretically, you could have found that block calculating it by hand. It would have taken you a couple days, but theoretically, it would have been possible. The chance of you finding this block at the first try are almost zero. And as with everything, it's a huge number field, and you pick one number randomly. The chance of picking a specific number or a small set of numbers is really, really tiny. And this means you just have to try a lot, because the more often you try, the more likely you are to eventually, by chance, find it. And yes, if someone would have a huge supercomputer, for example, a quantum computer, he could calculate many, many more hashes than everyone, but than anybody else. And this means he would be more likely to actually find such a block. But again, it could be someone mining on his CPU that just by chance found this block. So this is no indication that we have quantum computers now.
Okay. So originally it had 18 zeros in front of it. Now it has 21 zeros in front of it. The original Genesis block had 21 numbers in front of it, 21 zeros. Is it possible, like, is there a limit to this? Could they get all zeros and a one or something like that? Is there a low end to this?
Yes, there is a low end. The lowest number here is zero, just a bunch of zeros. That's the lowest number in this number field.
Because
But
I could guess that. I could guess all zeros. Could I get a block?
I actually think that all zeros is excluded because I think just all zeros can only be achieved if you have a zero input in the SHA-256. So it's a mathematical edge case that doesn't really apply. I
All
think.
right, that's not going to work then.
Well, but you have to remember the SHA-256 hash is a enormous number space. It's 2 to the power of 256 bits. That's incredibly large. There's a great video by 3 Blue 1 Brown, a nice math channel, that explains how big this number actually is. It's infinitely big, and we are still at the very top of that number space. And we would probably, yeah, it's never likely that we ever gonna reach a computing power that we will ever calculate all those numbers.
Now, is it possible that this block was not mined on Earth?
Yes, maybe it was Satoshi flying down, the pink Satoshi in the yellow dress, flying down in his Ethereum-shaped Starcraft.
See, I think that's a possibility. We shouldn't lower that. We shouldn't rule that out. Extraterrestrial Satoshi influence. They're asking a question in the chat. I think it's kind of related. Do you believe that quantum computing could unwind cryptography?
Yes and no. Quantum computers are just a special computer, and they can do a small set of tasks really well, and a large majority of tasks really not well. Similar to ASICs. ASICs are really good at mining Bitcoin, and they are shitty for playing anything else with them. It's a really minor edge case. And what you can do with a quantum computer is really efficient scalar multiplication, which is just multiplying large numbers, prime numbers. And this is a mathematical tool that is used in elliptic curve cryptography. And this is basically a mathematical proof that, or mathematical equation that allows you to generate a public key from a private key. And this means that the current version of the Bitcoin signing algorithms are based on such an elliptic curve. And quantum computers theoretically could break this specific elliptic curve function. However, this is still far off because this is a rather good elliptic curve. And even if we will eventually reach the point where we have a small scale quantum computer, it will still not be able to break this. But furthermore,
I've always
on the
reminded people.
Satoshi right here, the public key that is breakable by quantum computers is not really used that much in Bitcoin because it is not the Bitcoin address. The Bitcoin address is a double hash of the public key. So it uses two different hashing functions, similar to those being used in mining. And those specific hashing functions are not quantum breakable. They are 100% quantum resistant. And this means that the Bitcoin address that you use on a day-by-day basis is not quantum breakable at this moment. And it will most likely never be. It is completely quantum resistant. However, if you reuse a Bitcoin address, then the public key will be revealed to the Bitcoin blockchain. And this means if you reuse addresses, you are running the risk of eventually losing access to your funds or someone stealing your funds, because a quantum computer could theoretically arrive the Bitcoin private key from the public key that is on the blockchain. But that's why we have the security advice to always use new addresses that are double hashed and therefore quantum resistant.
That's the best reason I've ever heard to not reuse the address. I thought it was more of just kind of a cleanliness thing. Like when I use addresses for a donation, I get a whole bunch of random donations in there, and sometimes I have to pay a large fee to combine them together. Or even worse, sometimes I link that to my Trezor or my Ledger, and then everyone knows how much money I have, and it's really embarrassing to me. But that's a much better reason that if you use the key twice, that they could somehow use the quantum computer to crack your key. That's a
Exactly.
great idea. Yeah.
So your Mad Bitcoins and the World Crypto Network donation address, you have already spent out of that address once. And this
Sure.
means
Definitely.
that in order to prove that you are the owner of this address, you had to provide a signed message and the signature. And with revealing that signature, you also had to reveal the public key. And now everyone in this, like your public key is on the blockchain immutably and forever and ever. And this means theoretically, if we would have a really, really powerful quantum computer today, yes, people could steal all the Bitcoins that are still in that wallet. So then here again, for security advice, you should make sure that in this public donation address, there are not too many Bitcoin accumulated, because they can be stolen at any time with a quantum computer, a really, really good quantum computer.
Well, I've got no problems on that. I'm doing a good job spending them. I've also I've also heard with a quantum computer that the real problem is that it would break just kind of encryption generally. So the same encryption we use on our bank accounts, that we use to log into YouTube, that we use to log into this and that, that would all be broken. So there'd be a huge, just like a global encryption problem, not even necessarily a Bitcoin problem. Do you agree with that, Max?
Yes, because elliptic curve cryptography is a really, really good cryptography, and it has been secure for a really long time. But we already knew that quantum computers might break this, and therefore there are other alternatives. So yes, a vast majority of cryptography is elliptic curves, but there are many, many others. For example, Schnorr signatures that we now can easily upgrade in the Bitcoin network thanks to the segregated witness, which is amazing, by the way. And this means that with Schnorr signatures, we already have the ability to be 100% quantum resistant in the Bitcoin network. So what I predict is that because we now have this huge incentive to provide really, really good cryptography and privacy, because we have Bitcoin, that everyone else will innovate in this market, and we're going to see massive, massive advances in cryptography. It's going to be amazing.
This is super exciting, and this is why Bitcoin's the best. You can just use the wallet. You don't have to know that any of this is happening behind the scenes. But it's great to see this stuff expanding and the new levels of this stuff. And I understand parts of it. And if you can help me get to the next level and the level beyond that, we can try to keep up with this and keep the audience up with it as well. So I think it's really great. Thanks so much for the call, Max. People are going crazy in the chat. They think it's fantastic. They want you to call all the time. They want you to have your own show on the World Crypto Network. So definitely keep calling in. And if you want any of those things, let me know on Twitter or send me your email. I'll get you in the Slack, and we can just keep you chatting and get you on some more shows here, Max, because you have a really great way of explaining it. And some of this stuff I don't understand, and it gets really up there with the math and the numbers. But if you can explain it to me and I can help explain it to the audience and we can work together on this, I think it's really exciting stuff. So thank you so much, Max.
Hey, Thomas, thank you very much for the offer, and I greatly appreciate it. And I want to support you wherever I can, because you really do put a lot of effort in this. And this is a grassroots movement, the Bitcoin movement, and we have to stick together. So absolutely, I'll reach out to you later on Twitter, and we're gonna see what we can make here.
Great stuff. Thanks so much, Max. And yeah, give us a call anytime. And for the audience, yeah, we're going to try to get more Max on the show and maybe get Max's own show and whatever he's up for. I just think it's great. You find somebody that understands this stuff and it can explain it to us and can answer questions. We can go back and forth and try to get some understanding of this out there. So very cool stuff, Max.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas, and have a great show.
You
Keep up the
too.
great work.
Bye-bye. And you can give us a call now on Skype, World Crypto Network, all one word. Don't be worried. You don't have to be as smart as Max. You could just ask us some normal questions or anything like that. And if you are as smart as Max, you want to call and disagree or add more information or tell us about elliptical crypto curves and all this stuff, I think it's great. So thank you so much, Max. Truly fantastic. And Max has been calling in before, too. It's not the first time that Max has called in with great stuff. But sometimes with this math and the elliptical curves and all that, we can get to a whole nother level. And I love it when someone can explain it to me and I can ask a couple questions. And hopefully we can get this explanation out to you at home so you can understand it too. Because, yeah, this is complicated stuff. Nobody understands it perfectly, but some people do, and they can share it with us. And that's great. Super excited about that. So we're watching the price of Bitcoin. It's at $6,730. If you're looking at this line right here with me, you might be thinking, that looks flat. That looks very flat. That's why the crypto chart guys are saying we're going to make a decision soon. Decision soon because we're going flat, and that means that we have to go up or we have to go down. No one knows which way it's going to go, but we are hanging on. Let's see. They're talking in the chat. Mad Max, Maximum Max. They say those shills will start calling. Well, I mean, shills are going to call. I don't want to jinx it or anything. I'm surprised we don't have more prank calls or more people just supporting their crypto or whatever. But I think a lot of it is people just think I'll ban them, and they're right. So you get to make one call. But again, this is a community show, community program, and I think the community supports it. So, but if you want to give us a call on Crypto World Crypto Network, all one word on Skype, people are talking about Max in the chat. So if Max wants to join the chat, they want to follow you on Twitter, make you president. I don't think Germany has a president. Maybe you could be a prime minister. But we've been on for about an hour here. We'll try to keep the show going, or we'll cut ahead to the reading of Satoshi with Love if there are no calls, or I could go through one of these books I've got here. I finished the Sacha Baron Cohen unauthorized biography yesterday. Very interesting stuff. Great to hear about Borat and Ali G. Interesting character. Saying, why so many Simpsons references? Simpsons are awesome. One time, Homer changed his name to Max Power with 2 X's. The judge gave it to him because he said it was the only name that he spelled correctly. Let's see. Trump is president. This guy must have just fallen through a time warp. Something like that. Uh-oh, no spoilers. Time warps. But we're keeping an eye on the price of Bitcoin. We had some great calls. Well, we had one great call. We haven't had any other calls. Let's see. We're keeping up with the chat and we're watching all the stories go by. They say, trust the Germans. Hillary was supposed to be the one. We might have screwed up the matrix. We're going to have to loop around again. They're saying all this and more by 4th of July weekend. Dun, dun, dun. The Bitcoin core developer says Max wants to remain anonymous. Oh, but there he is in the chat. Dun, dun, dun. See, Merkel is terrible. Replace her, Max. Max for Merkel. Max is going to take Merkel's job. Very cool. Just keeping up with the chat. They say, trust the Germans. And they say, trust no one. Oh, very smart. Am I a Beavis and Butthead fan? I used to watch the show when it came out. I was a fan back then. I like the idea of them making fun of music videos. I also like the idea of music science theater, mystery science theater, where they make fun of movies. That's fun stuff. I like that. And of course, in later years, Mike Judge has blown us all away with Office Space and then Idiocracy. King of the Hill is a nice show too. But obviously, of course, I love Silicon Valley, the new live action show. But really, Idiocracy is the democracy. It's a documentary. It's a documentary about our future. You can watch Idiocracy. It's a really great movie. Most people haven't seen it. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Thomas. This is Mustafa calling
Hey.
from Texas.
Hey, Mustafa, calling from Texas. Still moving that truck around, huh?
I'm always moving around, man. Never. I can't stay stop for 2 seconds, or else I die.
You're like the Bitcoin blockchain, man. You're always on the move.
I'm always on the move. That's correct. Hey, I was calling because I was thinking about this yesterday, and actually I saw in the chat there was a lot of people talking about how the difficulty of the mining difficulty for Bitcoin like increased. I don't know, something like 15% the last retargeting. And I was thinking about something, if I'm some big mining company like Bitmain, or maybe not that big, but some larger scale mining company, like couldn't I like manipulate that and just turn all my miners on or off for 2 weeks, wait until the difficulty gets easy or drops down, and then turn all my miners back on and like pretty much uh like game the system, and just have them 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Like,
I definitely think you could. I don't think there's anything to stop miners from doing that. Of course, they would lose money while they had the miners off. So that would be an issue. But we've seen in the past where it seems like, yes, miners were turning off their miners to try to keep the hash rate from going low. There was a lot of this in the early days of Bitcoin Cash. If you looked at their chart, they had a very weird difficulty adjustment, and a lot of people were able to game it. And they were able to make it seem like there were more miners or there were less miners, and they were going to keep it from going up or keep it from going down. So this kind of manipulation definitely happens. And they're saying that you would have to have a lot of miners in the chat, but we do have a lot of companies that just build a lot of miners and then they plug them in and then they have them at the same location. So it's not unreasonable to say that they could do that.
right. But I mean, I guess the difficulty just keeps going up. So there's no evidence for that happening. But I was just thinking about it yesterday, and I seen people are thinking about it today as well. So I don't know if that is theoretically possible or if it's happening and we just don't notice.
Well, I did pull up a chart of the Bitcoin hash rate right here from Bitcoin Wisdom. And just looking at it as a novice here, just looking at the chart, I do see a little bit of this blue line going down below the line. And then I see this little pop at the end you guys are probably talking about. It does seem kind of equal to this blue line down and this blue line up. So if you're going to say that right here, halfway through the period, they turn the miners off, and then right here, when the new period began, they turned all the miners on. That wouldn't be totally unreasonable looking at this chart. But again, I'm just looking at this chart. So
Right. And then you guys were talking about the one block that was found that was like way more difficult to find than the previous blocks, and that kind of would fall into the same narrative as like, okay, this company just turned on like a full warehouse of miners all of a sudden. So of course they were able to. I don't know if that's right. I'm not really technical.
it seems possible, but I really think that block is just more of a random outlier. Like they're saying, it could have been done by hand, or it could have been done maybe on purpose as like a math project or some kind of like a thesis, like a goal. Can I do this impossible transaction? Maybe, if you worked really hard and you figured it out. So yeah, I don't know about that crazy block. And then I don't. I mean, we were speculating people could have some kind of a special fancy computer that we don't know about that allows them to make that block. That seems possible, but then again, we don't know. We don't have any direct information on that. So
We'll just have to wait 2 weeks and see what happens, right?
there it is. You can just wait 2 weeks and see how it goes.
All right, right, right. All right. Well, I don't know. That's just what I was thinking. Listen to the show. Just wanted to call in, give my 2 cents.
Sure, it's very interesting stuff, and it's remember there are different parts of Bitcoin, not just the chart, not just the people, but the miners and the way that the back end actually runs. And what's great is we can look at charts of this too.
Opinion, I think that's the most important part.
Definitely keeps the system going.
Right, the foundation of the whole thing.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Mustafa, for your call. Give us a call anytime. It's nice to have regular callers like yourself and Max and some of the other guys. So very cool.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. And you can give us a call now on Skype, World Crypto Network, all one word. Go ahead and add us on Skype, and we'll add you back. You can call in for free. Just install Skype on your phone, add World Crypto Network, and you're all set. So they're saying the difficulty adjust based upon how many blocks are found in a 2-week period. I agree with that. And the difficulty rate's pretty interesting. I mean, if just to talk about it in a basic way, maybe we haven't talked about it in a while, but if there were, say, 100 computers mining Bitcoin, they would create a certain number of hashes at a certain rate, right? A certain number of questions answered, right, in a certain rate. If you put 150 computers on the net, what the difficulty rate would do after 2 weeks is that it would make the problems harder, so that your 150 computers are now back to cracking the thing at 100 computers. So if you put 300 computers on there, you'd crack it really fast. Then the difficulty would adjust, and it would bring it back to the level of 100 computers. So it's a really amazing thing that the more money they put into mining, the harder the problems get. And maybe that's not the right thing, but as a basic understanding of it. So they're saying, looking at the chart, there's possibly even a 30% increase in mining difficulty next week. So it's rising a lot. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Thomas, hey, it's Ricardo from Paris.
Hey, how's it going? What's your thoughts on today's Bitcoin news?
You know, I keep thinking of this thing about the mining and the difficulty, and I've got this idea of mining manipulation, you know, like they do with diamonds and gold, and all the assets in the world is actually manipulated. And people think we're running out of oil, and really, you know, it's endless amounts. The world's just producing it, and all these assets and almost seems like cryptocurrency can be manipulated through the mining difficulty.
It does seem possible. And remember, what Max has been, not our Max, but Max Kaiser, what he's been positing
Yeah.
is that the hash rate keeps going up. So, you know, that whole poker analogy, if they know more than you do, the miners seem to know more than we do, right? They know that Bitcoin's going to be valuable in the future, or they're just making a very risky bet, right? They have to know something to have this kind of investment, or it could be sunk cost. They put the money in when Bitcoin was going up, something like that. We just don't know. So,
well, if you think about it, the Bitcoins, I mean, the system actually does know more than we do because it's the world it's living in. So they know that human pattern is to want to control something that's very powerful, and there's no other cryptocurrency with its mass and power behind it. So even if people try to shut it down, there would be such a massive war on Bitcoin, let alone cryptocurrency, that it would still be somewhere in the world, somebody would still be mining it, even if it was just one system mining it by itself. So in a sense, you could think that there is a mining manipulation because, yeah, you could have your system plugged in, whether it's your own computer, you know, farm or whatever you want to call it, your own system plugged in. But if you have numbers like in China that are massing like more than like 35%, then they've got a huge control over being able to manipulate the market because they can see exactly when it's spiking, like you said on the graph. And they know when to turn off and on their mining rigs, because the people who are plugged in, they have, like, you know, independently, anybody who's not a big player is just like kind of like a new buyer, I guess you'd say. But in the same sense, the computer system knows that it's gonna no matter what, how big the numbers are gonna be mined by, it's still gonna be mined on a small scale at a much slower process. It's like coffee. No one can really control coffee because it takes 3 years to make one coffee bean into a cup of coffee.
Huh.
So that's kind of, I think, why the system knows it's always going to be able to up the ante, but at the same time, big players can manipulate the difficulty easily.
I think they can, but they're still taking an awful risk. Right now, Bitmain can do this kind of thing, allegedly or possibly, because they are the largest player in the game. No one else is near as large as they are. However, if a secret player did come in, or someone they didn't know about, or you built a bunch of chips in your factory and you're waiting for your moment, that could be your moment. They turn their miners off, your new miners come on. all of a sudden you're in a great position, they're in a bad position. So they are taking a risk if they do that.
Absolutely. I don't know. I just keep thinking of mining manipulation. So who knows? We'll see in 2 weeks. And but the good thing about it is it really creates even more of a depth for people to think about with cryptocurrency and Bitcoin specifically, because the mining power versus any other cryptocurrency it's unfathomable how big Bitcoin is. You know, you've got farms and people moving them around in shipping containers and constantly these new innovations of how to keep them cold. It's a whole market in itself.
It really is, and the miners aren't interested as much in the price as maybe the speculators or the investors or the hodlers or anybody. The miners seem very interested in just getting more miners turned on, the local conditions of their government, where they're going to get power from, and where they're going to get more miners. So they are a different group of people, and that's why it's so interesting to be in Bitcoin. I've said before, and I was pilloried for it, but I still think it's a good idea. There's kind of a Bitcoin triangle out there with users on one point, coders on another point, and miners on another point. And it's the agreement of all three of these that give us Bitcoin. And when we break apart, like we did with the fork, a lot of that was because the miners went against the users and the coders. And now we're over here with the users and the coders, and the miners are off on their own with a dozen copies of every coin. So I think that's
the leverage is insane in cryptocurrency and in Bitcoin specifically. Ridiculous.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I've never touched that leverage stuff, although I guess I could have made more money because there are times where I was right, but I never tried to leverage it. I read about the stock market collapse in the 20s and the 30s, and I've always been terrified of leverage ever since then. So it was like a train spotting for leverage.
Yeah, definitely interesting because crashes. Yeah, I think that the crash is what everybody's worried about with whether it's the price, whether it's the mining power, whether it's what it might be. And that's kind of the downside of Bitcoin versus a lot of the things that people are so worried about the speed. But with all these new things coming in, the mining difficulty can even be affected on that level as well. And if people are really, if the market goes the way we want it to go and it's supposed to go, and it goes to the moon, you better believe people are going to be investing. That we're talking about people like your neighbors, people you know, people who are listening are going to invest into mining because they're going to be like, holy crap, there's such a big thing in it. So why not maybe get one Bitcoin while just having a computer running in the background?
Yeah, that's the same kind of disastrous thinking that's lost most everyone I know money. Everyone that I know that's mined would have been better off buying Bitcoin and holding them.
So what do you think about group mining? You know, when you invest into mining pools.
It's the same thing. I mean, anything you can do to not have the miners in your house because they ruin movies and TV shows, that's the first thing. But then once you have the miners out of your house, you're putting all kinds of trust into this system. I just think, and it's funny because I don't want mining to go away. I acknowledge that mining is an important part of the ecosystem, but sadly, I just think that mining is owned by large corporations, maybe the Chinese, maybe Iceland, maybe Canada, places where they have cold weather, lots of power. So,
and if there was a massive war that was in the world of people, and there was things like electronic impulses where people were setting them off in other countries,
mhm.
I mean, the whole cryptocurrency would be completely changed if there was an actual war, a real, that's affecting big players all together at one time where sides are being drawn. So it's just a weird time in the world, honestly. And um, it's really nice because in America, you guys can talk about it easily so well. In Europe, specifically, people are they're just naive to a lot of things. Maybe it's just more in France, but you have to really like seek people that are into it. Or I believe in America, it's such a big topic because it really questions the system and gives the people power and an international level. So I think it's quite interesting how the depth of everybody's opinion on cryptocurrency is going to really affect with everything that's going on, let alone the mining manipulation, as I like to call it.
Yeah, after the last election, I have a hard time just grouping America together. I think you really do have to find your own tribe. Whether you're in France or whether you're in America, I think you have to find something like what we have right here with the World Crypto Network, where we all agree, we all have differences of opinion too, but we all like Bitcoin, we all want to talk about it. And maybe we're not finding that tribe in our local country, in our local area. So we have to go to the internet for it. And that's why I think the internet's so great, is it gives us the option to find these tribes and to find people we can work together with.
Yeah. Well, power to the people, mate. I appreciate your show, and have a great afternoon.
Yeah, thanks so much for the call, Ricardo. Give us a call anytime, and we'll keep this going.
Bye, Thomas.
Bye-bye. And you can give us a call right now on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. It's pretty cool. We've been doing this call-in show for a long time, but not that regularly. Now we've been trying to do it every day, maybe even twice a day. That could be tough on the schedule. But it's really cool. We're starting to get some regular callers here. We're starting to get kind of a talk show feeling. I think the people in the chat are feeling it too. It's very cool. Make sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. That helps more people find the show. Remember, thumbs up are free. I used to be kind of like, oh, I'm only going to thumbs up some things, or I'm only going to 5-star some things. But now I'm like, I got to thumbs up everything, everything that, is decent. If something's not good or negative, or maybe the audio didn't work that time, it's okay to thumbs down it. Actually, to tell you the truth, YouTube doesn't care. They like it if you thumbs up things or thumbs down things. They're actually just adding, or I don't know for sure, but in my opinion, they're just adding them together and using that as a static of engagement, that your show had engagement. Maybe people engaged with your show and they hated it and they thumbed it down. But it just shows that they had a reaction, that they watched it and had a reaction. So that means something different to YouTube than it might to other people. But it's great to give us a thumbs up and a share. Subscribe down below. And it's 8:58, pretty close to 9 o'clock. We might close it off for calls. I'll try to give you a couple more minutes till 9. If you do have a call, you have a question or a comment, and yeah, it doesn't have to be the smartest question in the world, doesn't have to be the smartest comment. A lot of times, the simple questions really help people at home. We had a question yesterday where they were using their Trezor or their Ledger for their first time, and they wanted to know, did they have to leave the Trezor plugged in while they send to that address? And you don't. If you have a Bitcoin address on the network, it's kind of like having a QR code that's on a padlock and it's locked onto the chain. You can send the money there and it'll just wait for you in the padlock until you come along with the key. And when you come along with the key and you unlock the padlock, you get all the Bitcoin that are in there and you can send them. So it's very cool. They're talking about World Bitcoin Network in the chat. Yeah, it's funny, when I started this, World Bitcoin Network was already taken. A friend of mine, James D'Angelo, registered that, and he made a couple of cool videos. And then he went on to work with this really cool idea about Congress. James is super smart, and he looked at the Nixon administration. And under Nixon, they started having public voting for everything. So with public voting, as a lobbyist, you could see if the people voted the way that you paid them to. So everyone always says transparency fixes everything and sunlight is the best disinfectant. And sometimes that's true, but other times the way that the founding fathers had set it up, it was all about this ability to vote in private, so that you could not be influenced. And the way we have it now, the lobbyists can tell exactly who was influenced, and if they're successful, they can give them more money. Yeah, he changed the name of the World Bitcoin Network to CRI, the Congressional Research Institute, I think, something like that. He's done a couple of speeches on it. It's a very cool idea. It's historically based, and that's pretty much what he's working on now. He also did that fantastic series of Bitcoin blockchain or Bitcoin Blackboard videos. I don't know if you guys have seen those. They might be before your time, but Google those up, especially the one on the S curve. I'll pull that up now. But about viruses and Facebook and Twitter and rats and how they all grow the same way with this S curve up. And what James postulates back in the day, and I think he would still stick with it, is that Bitcoin grows the same way. So let me try to find that Bitcoin Blackboard. So yeah, super cool guy. I got to meet him once in San Francisco. He's just a good dude. He's got some stuff here about elliptic cryptography, Bitcoin Blackboard series, and also humble brag, I was able to help him keep these videos online. He wanted to go to his new CRI, but he didn't really want these old videos to be there. So I said he could make them unlisted, but not private. This way we could still all enjoy them, and they would just be here under the CRI. So very cool. Of course, I can't find the one that I want about the S curve. I'm just not seeing it. But these are great videos. Check out James and his Bitcoin Blackboard series. They're a little old now, but they're still pretty up to date. And it's funny to see him talking about Bitcoin going viral back when it was at $500. And you're thinking 5,000 is a pretty good deal now. So, but we're going to go ahead and close the phone lines for today. But you can give us a call probably tomorrow morning. I might try to write the Bitcoin group later today, or maybe go to a show like they mentioned. I haven't seen a Vegas show in a while. I do like doing that. I'm also collecting playing cards from all the casinos. I know it's pretty cheesy, but it's kind of fun. I get to find where the gift shop is, and maybe get a Gatorade, the best drink at the casino, Gatorade. And yeah, I have no interest in gambling. And that's why it's so hard for me to put money in Bitcoin. All this, I hate losing money. I hate losing in general. I like games of skill, things like chess, where I win if I'm good, and if I'm no good, I lose, and then I can try to get better. So it's very cool stuff. But just a recap of what's been going on 2 Satoshi with Love. Let's see. I'm gonna cough some more. No. Excuse me. But yes, Satoshi Nakamoto, a pink space alien, crashed his spaceship into John Front's house. John Front and his friend Mara attempt to prove that Satoshi was really Satoshi, but Mara still didn't believe his proof, and now is trying to get Satoshi to code for her so that she could read his code and see if he really is the one. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is involved. He's running for president. It's November 2016 when I wrote this, and he's now been ordered to crack down on Bitcoin. It's all happening on 2 Satoshi with Love. Dean looked down at his phone. 6:15 p.m. He'd given them plenty of time, and for free, he thought. Now for a bit of fun. He pulled up his messages app and sent an anonymous text to Barbara Vision. He hated to fuck with John. Nah, why lie? He loved it. He loved to fuck with John. And besides, she tips really well when the information turns out to be true. He selected the send location button with the only words, "He's here," and pressed send. She'd know what he meant. She always knew what he meant. Sir, internet searches for Bitcoin are up 5,000% in the last 4 hours, sir. We're afraid your words might have not had their intended effect. What's that? Trump said, looking up from swiping right on his phone. My words? The greatest words. Truly the best. Best words money can buy. What coin is that again? Bitcoin, sir. Our friends asked you to speak out against it yesterday? Sure, our friends. I remember. Don't treat me like some dolt because you think some bit of coin is important in this world. He starts looking at his phone again. Because I will tell you what's important in this world, and it's not a bit of coin. I'm afraid it's more serious than that, sir. How? Our friends, our Russian friends, they are not happy. Eh? They are not happy about how the speech went. They are not happy with your performance or how your words, while tremendous, how they carried, sir. They didn't land well. They just think you went out there and told people to use Bitcoin, to use it to buy drugs, to use it to be anonymous, to use it as their own, as the people's money, and the Russians don't like it. They may shift their support to the other side. No, you don't mean it. That's nonsense. Poppycock. The Russians on the other side. Well, he put his phone down on the desk and actually started paying attention for a change. Ruskies and Hillary. I don't like that. Don't like it one bit. Mara was still looking over Satoshi's shoulder, gazing agape at the working code, trying to figure out and see where she'd went wrong. It seemed more like the entire direction she's headed was the problem. There was no way to solve the problem without backing up and starting all over again. And you know how hard that can be. I occupied myself by scrolling through Twitter on my phone. Oh shit, No way. They ignored me. Pricks. Guys, could you listen to me for a minute? Yeah, sure. What is it, John? Mara said without turning. Satoshi just ignored me. Trump spoke out against Bitcoin, I said. So? Mara said. He came out against it hard, told people it was terrorist money, said it could be used to buy drugs or sex anonymously, said it could be used for anything, even mentioned that if the price went up, he'd prosecute people for illegal capital gains. His surrogates are saying that Bitcoin is the biggest threat against world peace, that it must be stopped. Before Islamism, before immigration, that Bitcoin is the number one threat his administration will swiftly and quickly attack. So, Mara said, I think Bitcoin has gone viral. What? The price is way up and it doesn't seem like it's stopping. Google searches are through the roof. People are really interested in Bitcoin right now. Yeah, that's great. And what does that have to do with us? It was at that moment that she walked in. She was always trouble, especially when she was uninvited. This time was no different. Her black coat matched her dark outfit, but the blue of her trench coat belt matched the brightness of her eyes, eyes that were glaring and seemed to be screaming as she opened her mouth and punctuated the silence, forever broken. This is Barbara Van Dyke reporting for Barbara Vision, and we are live with a human scumbag, John Front, who continues to haunt the streets of San Francisco, even here in the hallowed halls of Workshop Cafe. We had a private room and the door was open, but even the drones were ignoring you, to give you an idea of how many times this had happened. He lurks and stalks. What do you have to say for yourself, you human piece of garbage? She pushed the phone in my face. It was actually two phones rubber banded together with a Wi-Fi station. She was broadcasting on two channels at the same time, both for editing later and so certain viewers could watch the show seeing only the outrage on her face. And it was quite a beautiful face. Like a statue, she had perfect features and high cheekbones that seemed to place her gorgeous and sparkling eyes on a pedestal, as if her entire face was a Greek temple, a monument to symmetry and perfection. An idol that few should look upon for fear of losing their minds examining its perfection, except when she was angry, which seemed to be most of the time. Then her smiles would turn to frowns and her bright eyes into dark daggers. Her hatred knew no depths, and she was clearly overloaded with hate today. Good morning, Barbara and Barbara Vision. Glad to see you all today, John said, maintaining his cool. What's today's transgression? The same as usual, you vile betrayer. You destroyed my app. You destroyed my life. We will not stop until we expose you as the evil you are for the protection of others. She was grandstanding here, as she'd altered the angle of the camera to show her as powerful, speaking down to her viewers, as if Athena herself speaking from on high. We will strike you out, John Front. We will tell everyone. What are you doing here at Workshop Cafe? She'd switched into hardcore interview mode. Just meeting my friend Mara and my new friend Sal. Sal, she said, finally noticing the pink space alien in a t-shirt, who was quite taken aback by the whole display. Mara had been ignoring it. She'd seen this happen dozens of times, but for Satoshi, it was his first, and he was jittery. Maybe it was just the two live webcams that kept darting around the room as she erratically waved her hands to express her anger. Maybe it was the force of her personality, but he was transfixed. What are you doing with a pink space alien? It's a costume. It is not a costume. Yes, it is a costume. It's Halloween. He paid a lot of money to have the makeup put on, and he wants to get the full use out of it. I imagine the novelty will wear off after a week. She was ignoring me while I was speaking. Nothing new. But I didn't think she was this fast. It only took half a second, but she moved across the room and attempted to pull Satoshi around by the top of his head, within full view of her forever rotating battery of cameras. This is not fake. Not for a second. Pink alien invader who has terrible taste in friends. Identify yourself. You are live on Barbara Vision with more than 27 barbers watching live. Who are you? My name is Satoshi Nakamoto, and I have come in peace. And that's about it for this quick reading of To Satoshi with Love, a little novel that I wrote during National Novel Writing Month a few years ago, around the time Trump was being elected president. As always, if you like this show, you could donate to the QR code on your screen or subscribe on one of the Patreon addresses down below. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share, and we'll be back around the same time tomorrow, and then hopefully with the Bitcoin group later in the day, but I still need to write it today. So thanks so much for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.